Imagine being trapped in a country, not because you don't have the right documents, but because the government simply won't let you leave. No matter how much you want to get back home, you're just stuck. Because that's exactly what happened to a US banker working for Wells Fargo. For months, she was barred from leaving China, but after long negotiations, the US government was finally able to secure her release. So in this video today, we're going to discuss who the banker really is, why wasn't she allowed to leave, how the US government stepped in, and most importantly, what does this all mean for workers and companies doing business in China? So without further ado, let's get right into it. The person at the center of this case is Chenyue Mao, a banker with Wells Fargo. She specializes in international factoring and cross-border strategies, which basically means she helps companies manage payments and financial operations across different countries. Mao is a US citizen who lives in Atlanta, but she was born in Shanghai. On one of her trips to China, she suddenly found herself unable to leave. Authorities there placed her under what is known as an exit ban. It meant she was required to stay in China and assist with a criminal investigation. She had not been convicted of a crime, but her involvement in the case made her subject to restrictions. For months, she could not return to the United States. For Mao, the situation was deeply unsettling. While she was not formally charged, the uncertainty of how long the exit ban would last created immense stress, both personally and professionally. She was separated from her family in Atlanta, unable to fulfill her responsibilities at work, and left in a state of limbo as the investigation unfolded in China. Stories like Mao's are not isolated. In recent years, China used exit bans on both its own citizens and foreign nationals. Sometimes these bans are linked to legal disputes, and other times they are tied to broader political or business tensions. For foreign executives working in China, the possibility of being prevented from leaving has become a serious concern now. These cases create uncertainty for international companies. Employees worry whether they might be targeted simply for being connected to any sort of legal case. And for governments like the United States, these bans become a diplomatic challenge. The US government eventually stepped in to push for Mao's release. According to sources, the officials raised the issue directly in talks with China. One key moment came in Madrid, where US and Chinese officials met to discuss a range of difficult topics, from TikTok's US-controlled ownership to financial issues. And behind all these scenes, the Mao's case was already on the table. After weeks of back-and-forth negotiations, China finally agreed to lift the ban. Mao was allowed to leave, and she has already returned to the United States. This was seen as a small but a very important diplomatic win for Washington, especially at a time when tensions with Beijing are very high. Wells Fargo's limited footprint in China also reflects the cautious approach many US financial institutions take in the country. Unlike global giants such as JP Morgan or Citigroup, Wells Fargo has chosen to maintain a smaller operation focusing on servicing multinational clients rather than aggressively expanding into the Chinese domestic market. This strategy reduces exposure but also limits growth opportunities in one of the world's biggest economies. At the same time, the bank's presence in Shanghai and Beijing is strategically important. These cities are financial hubs where major international business takes place, and Wells Fargo's ability to provide cross-border services helps global companies manage their money and investments more efficiently. Even with a modest workforce, being on the ground in China allows Wells Fargo to build relationships, support trade flows, and navigate regulatory requirements more effectively than if it were operating remotely. It is still unclear whether Mao's case was solved directly during the Madrid meetings or through separate discussions. The exact details may never be fully revealed. But what matters the most is that she's finally free now to return to her life and work in the United States. However, this case is unlikely to be the last. Multinational companies with staff in China are already rethinking how they manage risk. Some may reduce the number of employees stationed there, while others may increase legal protections and insurance policies for their workers. In the end, Mao's story is more than just about one banker. It is about the risks of global business, the power of governments, and the importance of diplomacy. For Chenyue Mao, the nightmare of not being able to leave China is now over. But for many companies and workers, the concern still remains. If it happened once, could it happen again? This release shows us that persistence can work, but it also warns us that international business is not just about markets and money. It's about politics, law, as well as the ability to move freely. And sometimes, freedom depends not only on your passport, but on the negotiations between nations. Do you all agree with me? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, and also subscribe to my channel for more financial insights. I'll see you in the next one.